Hey guys, my name is Damien. Welcome to Maple Leaf MTB, and in today's video we're doing some more upgrades. So in today's video we're going to be swapping out the brakes. Basically what we have right now are some very basic entry-level 2-piston Shimano brakes. They're definitely lacking a bit of power, especially for me. I'm a heavier rider. They do fade pretty quickly on the downhill descent, so I'm looking for something with a little bit more bite, a little bit more power, more consistency. So that's why in today's video we're swapping these stock brakes to these Shimano Deore M6120 4-piston brakes, levers, and new rotors as well. Okay, starting off, I'm just gonna flip the bike over to its good side so it'll be easier to work on these brakes. Boom. So the first thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to remove both of the wheels. Okay, we can go ahead and put our axle over, or we can just put our axle back in here. Just tighten it ever so slightly. Awesome. I'll go ahead and put the axle back in the frame too. Now that we got the wheels off, let's go ahead and put the new rotors on. There we go, we can take our front rotor off. It's in near perfect condition, so I'll save this just in case something would happen. And boom. Last rotor off. Now for the new rotors, I went ahead and bought these Shimano RT-66 rotors. This is a 203mm rotor in the front and a 180 in the rear, since they don't need as much stopping power, and plus it would be more expensive, so it's cheaper this way. So let's go ahead and begin the install. All right. Now we can go ahead and put the wheels on the side. We can begin swapping the brakes. Just gonna have to leave them a little bit loose, since we're gonna have to straighten them out anyways, or line them once we put the wheel on. Look at that. And let's go ahead to secure the little cable over here. And with the new brake on, let's go ahead and prep the rear brake. So in order to install the rear brake, we're gonna have to unbolt this caliper, take out the brake line. We're gonna have to do the same for this brake over here, the new one. And we're gonna be routing this new cable into the frame and attaching it to the lever, which is also new. Unfortunately, I can't use this cable because it's the Shimano BH59 cable, not the BH90, which is slightly wider diameter hose, a little bit better construction. I think it's meant for higher power brakes, and unfortunately this is not, so I cannot reuse the lever, but that shouldn't be a problem since I am pretty good with internally routing cables. So anyways, let's go ahead and begin. And to avoid contamination of the rear pad, since I might reuse these brakes later on, I will go ahead and take the pads out. All right, let's go ahead and do the bolt. That was pretty loose. Any second now, some oil should start dripping out. Let's get slide the thing all the way back down and get a light tug. Here comes the olive. Go face that thing down. Just go ahead and remove the old brake caliper. Okay. There we go. Comes out the fluid. We're gonna go ahead, just snip off the top. Pull this little thing out, and I'll show you guys a cool trick how to cut the brake hose nice and flush with the brake. You can go ahead, start guiding our cable. Okay. There we go. There comes the hose. Let's slide it under the shock. Pull out the rest of it. Leave a little bit out here at the top. There we go. You can go ahead and pull out the cable now. And just put this over here so we can dry it out later. Okay. Oof. That was probably my worst ever 10 minutes of my life, trying to get this cable just to this section, because this little shifter cable I had to sacrifice decided to be a good idea to slip through. So I will save that for more internal routing. But now we can finally get to the actual brake install. Now when it comes to actually cutting this cable, I really don't need to measure it, since I have enough cable with the knock block installation, so it shouldn't be a problem for me. I like to run my cables short, so in order not to snip off a lot, I like to put a one of these little washers here or nuts that you screw into the caliper. Grab a nice pair of cable cutters and essentially just line them up flush with the nut and cut. And that will give you a nice, almost completely flat, smooth cut. In order to actually make this work, you have to not cut it again, but just ovalize or make the oval, I guess, the cut cable that is an oval into a circle. Actually, just make it easier for the olive or the barb over here, the insert, to get tapped in. So I'm just gonna throw this on over here. All right, now the cable's routed. The insert over here is it's technically like 99% flush. It shouldn't have any problems. So now we can actually begin threading in our new olive insert. So we get our 5/18 wrench. Just insert a little more cable. Insert that. And while we try to thread on the bolt, I'm not cross-threading it because that'll result in a new caliper. We're gonna push the cable in towards the caliper, essentially, to create the best possible seal with the olive and insert. Okay, I'm gonna pull the access cable out, make everything nice and tight. Okay, awesome. Now the next step is to just install the zip ties, the little ports here, and then we can go ahead and bleed the brakes. Let's go ahead and get that nice and tight. I have the bike in a good bleed position over here. The caliper is nice and low, so the air can travel up the line and into the reservoir over here, burping essentially all the air out and cleaning the entire brake system. So in order to keep the bars straight so I can actually do this bleed properly, I'm just gonna use one of these little, I guess, bar extension holders that come with most bike stands. Undo the little thing here. You gotta be super careful to take the O-ring out with the bolt. I'm just gonna put it here. Next, I'm just gonna get the funnel, pour in some brake oil. Just thread it in here first. Just about there. And go ahead and begin pumping the lever, just getting any air out of the system. And secure the hose on the bleed nipple. We can go ahead and begin the bleed process. Just gonna open up the bleed port at a half turn. Start pumping fluid, and if you look up at the lever, you should or could be able to see air bubbles coming up through the system. That means that we're flushing all the air out, putting in some nice mineral oil. Paying attention so that we don't overfill. Now that the rear is officially bled, I am going to go ahead and put the pads back in. Take the cotter pin out over here. Awesome. Now that the bleed is finished, the last thing to do is to put on the wheels and go for a ride. The problem is it's pitch black outside. It's almost 9 to 10 p.m. That cable riding took a little bit longer than I thought. So I'll see you guys in the morning. And we're back. Let's give these brakes a good run for their money. So right away, first couple of things to notice were how touchy these brakes were. The big 203mm rotor up front definitely played a big role in that. Despite the brakes only being bedded halfway in, they still had a ton of stopping power. Yeah, the brakes were touchy, but they still had a good amount of modulation.
especially in the rear, so it wasn't as easy to lock up as I thought it would be. So that little hill down, I was actually kind of blown away. I was maybe using about 20 to 30% of the braking power, and it definitely slowed me down a lot. So it'll be a little tough getting used to these big rotors and big brakes up front, but the result is awesome. I think it's probably one of the best things I've done to this bike so far. Now, having these big brakes and a ton of stopping power definitely helped me avoid a crash here, as someone nearly ran into me as I was coming down the hill.
Yeah.
So, all coming together to my final opinion, would I buy these brakes again? Absolutely. They have almost the same amount of stopping power as the Shimano XT 4-piston brakes, apparently, which I read. These just don't have the tool-free contact adjuster and the useless, apparently, free-stroke screw. Now, these brakes, especially for someone like me, are perfect. They have the perfect amount of stopping power. You can lock up the front wheel, no problem. You can lock up the rear, and there's still a ton of modulation, despite what people claim Shimano as being a on and off sort of brake. But that's not true. These brakes have lots of modulation. They have a good amount of power, and they definitely did not fade on the downhill parts over here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a thumbs up. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer them. Thank you guys so much for watching again, and have a good one.
Oh, Jesus.